Hello, Charlie TCG here, and welcome back to Looking Ahead, the series where I break down and analyse the meta, what's happening over Japan, and how that'll impact our one. Today, I want to talk about the decks which are definitely becoming more unstoppable and on a huge rise in the City League Championships of Season 1, and more specifically, Gardevoir. Is it unstoppable over Japan? A lot of people had a huge confidence boost after its hugely dominant and very well performance over in LAIC. A lot of people thought it was dead after Iron Hands, but loads of people definitely were proven wrong, and Gardevoir has been absolutely on a dominated spree on both our format and over there in Japan, as well as also Mew and Moon definitely come up on the rise to be one of the strongest other decks of the format. So we're going to break down this week's top 16 and meta placement, where the decks sort of fall into place, and the top 6 performing archetypes as well, and some of the good sort of decks as well. Some unique sort of ways of approaching to adapt to the meta happening over in Japan. So if we just look at the top 60 results here, Loftina, Charizard and Gardevoir are still up there being the most 3 played archetypes right now. They are very, very strong, and more interesting enough, 2 of these are evolving archetypes. We were told that evolving decks were dead because of Iron Hands. They're completely wrong because Charizard and Gardevoir are just so dominant right now in the metagame. Moon is definitely coming up there still, but only just at the 8%. It's definitely leaning in towards that Lost Box sort of version, that Sable style, which had that Moon, just that huge damage capability. So you have 2 very, very strong attackers within being Moon and Radiant Charizard. So having that Lost Box capability has really pushed Moon to be a much stronger archetype. Definitely after LAIT, we saw the right way to play Iron Valiant, and that is with Entei. You can see that being just shy of 5% of the metagame. This is definitely a very, very strong archetype. In fact, Yoga Loop, you're taking an additional turn, taking a huge amount of single prize Pokemon. If you think of like the Frigibacks, think of like the Charmanders, as well as also likes of Gardevoir as well. Definitely a very, very powerful archetype. One deck which I really want to talk to you about, which has definitely fallen from grace a little bit, is Xianpao and Miraidon. These were definitely labelled as one of the best decks to play Iron Hands in, one of the strongest archetypes in the next metagame. We can see here, they're not performing as well. A lot of people aren't playing it as often as they might want to do, or if they are playing a lot of it, they're not getting that top cut, which really they respect with it. If you add the percentage together, to be like an Iron Hands deck, they still come in third, which is honestly insane to think about how powerful the likes of Charizard and Giratina have really been performing. But definitely one thing I do want to point out with the Charizard list, like I mentioned, I think last week or week before, no one's really playing a path deck here. We can see that the big strongest path decks are like some Miraidon and Tina, yes. But because a lot of people aren't playing path, Charizard is going away from the evolution build, which is really well in the Heavily Kings tournament in the Elite Four. They're going back to playing the more likes of the Pidgeot build, getting any card you want compared to drawing to 5. You would take the any card you really want to have. So if we look at this top 16, I think it's very respective and constantly has been about the same sort of meta percentage-wise in most sort of divisions. But looking at the top 6 playing decks, it's definitely shaked up a tiny bit. We can see Gardevoir has had 10 wins and 10 second places. It has been 20 different Gardevoir archetypes have made it into a finals. Yes, there's been some Gardevoir versus Gardevoir, but that's happened about twice or so. If you think about it that way, that's 17 finals Gardevoir has been in, which is an insane amount of number. Giratina is still doing incredibly well, but just look at that top 8 placement. Mew has kind of shot back up, doing incredibly well, but getting multiple wins and very high placements in that top 8. And because I've kind of talked about quite a bit of it, I've kind of split the route of Roaring Moon. We can see one Roaring Moon with the Lost Box archetype, which has definitely had the most amount of wins, but the regular Lost Box, the Roaring Moon, the more powerful, more turbo, sort of aggressive build, definitely had the most sort of placement, has the most weight to it. But the Lost Box build could potentially be the new way to play it. It's getting the more wins, it's doing incredibly well, it's very consistent, has a really good plethora of single price attacking options, and not many people are playing Jirachi, so Sableye is very, very strong. And Charizard is slowly falling down a little bit, but that's nothing to really say that. Just look at that placements overall. Have a huge bottom heavy with that top 8 places be 31, and even having 5 wins and 5 second places. So all of these lists here, I generally think are very, very powerful. These are probably the 6 most strongest archetypes, and yes, you might go, but Charlie, there's 2 Roaring Moon decks in here. What would be number 7? Well, I think number 7 was actually Iron Valiant, so with Entei, so there's quite a few there. But Miraidon and Xianpao only get about 1 of 2 wins. Not really as high places most people really think it's going to be. So if now let's look at some of these really good placing archetypes and look at what the most unstoppable archetype, which I labeled, Gardevoir. We can see here a lot of people, it's very similar to other people list here. We do see it has that Moonlit Hill, which that Meiji Stadium card, which hopefully we will get one day. I'm really hoping we get that in our Paldean Fate set. You get to pretty much you get to discard psychic energy, and if you do, heal 30 damage. making sure your Gardevoir Shining Arcanas can do a huge amount of damage capability. You do play that Professor Churro because Block Black is doing very well. It won a regional. It got top 8 in both events as well. So Block Black is definitely here to stay. So having that instant sort of get out of jail free card is very, very strong. Avery as well is definitely becoming a more common way to play Gardevoir. Having that disruptive capability, disrupting your opponent by discarding 2 of their very, very powerful resources, it's really, really strong. Like I mentioned last week, everyone is playing like a full bench now, and all of them have their spot right down. So having that Avery is just so, so strong. The Luxurious Cape as well. I absolutely love this in this sort of deck here, making sure your Scream Tails and Gardevoirs can do a huge amount of damage capability anyway. But again, the only issue is you do give up 2 prizes. You may notice in here they're not playing any of the other cards we're used to. There's no Mew, there's no Greninja, and more specifically, there's no Zacian. They're really focusing purely on attacking multiple with the Gardevoir having 3 counts, and that Scream Tail as well. The counter catchers boss, that's all here to stay. I really like this list. It's very interesting. And another list I'm going to showcase you has seen one thing potentially you've seen in both lists, and that is having the likes of that Team League, like Pokemon League headquarters. The Pokemon League headquarters is very, very powerful, making sure your opponent's basic Pokemon, they all have to take an additional more energy card to do an attack. Romy now has to have 5 energies. Iron Hands needs to have Romy has to have 4 energies, whereas Iron Hands has to have 5 energies. That's a huge commitment in most decks. Even likes of Greninja has to have 4 energies as well. So it can be really difficult to constantly make sure your opponent is streamlining these big attack options, which can really help Gardevoir really push a little bit more forward. You can see here they're not opting to play more of the traditional build. No Zacian as well, but always having that Crystalic because it really helps in the mirror match. Having Silver Luxurious Cape, going with the high counts of Fog Crystal, or the high counts of Gardevoir, to gain that more big sort of damage capability that way. I really like this new sort of build of Gardevoir. Is this the new way to play Gardevoir? I'm not too sure. I think it's really interesting to see that this sort of build is constantly evolving. We did see Gardevoir did win over in Australia. We saw Gardevoir obviously did do very well around the world as well. So I'm really excited to see Gardevoir still really kind of like doubt the haters, go, hey, Shein Power and Miraidon with Iron Hands doesn't scare me. I can do incredibly well. Just have a big single prize attacking options. Other sort of decks I want to talk to you about is Mew. It didn't really gain anything from the last couple sets here, but it's still performing incredibly well. Definitely the fusion build is the more strongest sort of version right now with Mew. A lot of people do still like the DT build, that destructive capability, the grabber, with having the Lux Trade, really slow down your opponent that way with multiple paths to the peaks, but potentially fusion Mew is still the best version. You could do huge amount of damage capability with a Meloetta. You have Ice Cube through some damage sniping, and of course you now have that Lost City, which we've had for like a year now, but it just makes Mew that little bit better. I think Fusion Mew is in an incredibly good sort of situation right now. It's done very, very well overall. I think in the European regional that happened just yesterday, we saw it to get 2 top 8 placements. So Mew is still here to stay. It's still doing incredibly well. Doesn't gain anything, but a lot of people just respect it less and less. More, less Drapion, less Spiritomb equals Mew doing incredibly well. Very, very powerful. And this is definitely an unstoppable force right now in the metagame. Now let's look at Lost Zone Roaring Moon. Now Lost Zone Roaring Moon is definitely kind of I was talking out a little bit about it just before LAIC, but after LAIC, it's really been put on the map. More people are playing this, more people really respect this from archetype, and it's very, very powerful. I think focusing more on having a high count of energy cards, we've seen it just work very, very well. We saw Tortoise, which had Roaring Moon, which had Palkia and Kyogre. There was a huge plethora of difference of archetypes here. But this is just Sablezard with Roaring Moon attached to it. I think it's a very, very powerful other attacking option. By having access to gates means you can use your Radiant Charizard early on in the game and not really relying on the late game attacker. Multiple Claras, multiple Supras, make sure you can have multiple different attacking options throughout the entire game. I really love this version of Roaring Moon. I think this could potentially be the new best way to play it. I'm really excited to try it out myself, and it's also very, very strong, very, very fast and aggressive by playing their multiple copies of Pokegear, as well as also having that Battlefield P-Pass and Nestball, and multiple switching outs, so you can try and get out that 10 the Lost Zone, or more specifically 7, which is what you desperately need. We also have this other Roaring Moon list here. This is definitely the more normal build we're used to. Big turbo build as well. And a lot of people are opting to play the Greninja build, the NG switches. So in case you only have like one Roaring Moon, you can only really get set up. How many NG switches kind of like push it onto another Roaring Moon, or Galarian Moltres, or more Pico, or more specifically, a lot of people like the Greninja play. Now, this one doesn't play the cancelling clone, which you could argue is a very good inclusion into the list by making sure you can take multiple prizes and kind of like push your Gardevoir matchup to be better, because Roy Moon has a terrible Gardevoir matchup, I feel like. So having that Greninja and that cross switches with the likes of Catholic Clone could be another way to play Roy Moon. I love it. It's still not a refined archetype. Yes, it's not been performing as well in the regionals and these big events, but it's a very fun rogue local sort of archetype. And obviously you play a lot copy of Professor Sada, and we're not playing Pokegear, Pokestop, we're playing the Po Town store to really find out any of the tool cards you might particularly need. If you are messy, Vitality Band gets you over that additional damage, so you can actually get that big KO on Roy Moon and Iron Hands and not rely on the Brute Bonnet sort of combo option. And let's look at some fun decks which have actually been doing well. Palkia, sorry about that. Palkia is doing incredibly well. It got top 4 in their regionals just this weekend, and it's just very, very powerful. Huge amount of damage capability. You could play team it up with Ice Rider. You could also team up with the likes of Iron Valiant, but no, here they're going straight forward down the narrow, but also having that Shaman for the late games of option, helping you in that Charizard matchup, that Roy Moon. It's a very, very powerful archetype. I love that Shaman capability. I think Earthen Vessel has just opened up Palkia to be a much stronger deck. It's also opened up so many archetypes. We've seen the return of Reggie. Even Luna Rock is actually doing really well. Earthen Vessel just makes so many archetypes so much stronger. Basically having a Professor's Letter with that discard effect, which is what Palkia even likes at times, is just very strong. I also love the Iron Bundle. You can use that as an attacking option, but also it's very good to have that one-sided gut on your opponent having to choose something. It helps you against if they have like a Block Lax and a Rotom in the background, you can get a 2-pricer. But this deck also plays 4 copies of Path to Peak. Like I mentioned, not many people are playing Path to Peak, so having this option with Path to Peak is very, very strong. And I absolutely love this twist for Palkia. And this is a really powerful grass deck, which actually got 2nd place. We have the Toe Scroll, which is just very, very powerful. Obviously, we have the one Toe Scroll from our latest set, which makes sure that Pokestop, as well as also Regidrago's ability, and also more specifically Superior Energy Retrieval don't have any effect. But you also have the Toe Scroll EX, which we've had for quite a few years now. Not a few years, a few months and a few sets, having the Sableye Killer as an ability, and also doing a huge amount of damage capability, the amount of grass energies you have attached to it around your field. The Cherrim is a really good sort of catalyst, really fuel up your attacking option, and then your Lilligants are very good to have like a decent sort of attacking option in the late game, and a very good V-Star ability as well. I think this is a very, very strong archetype. We can see here it has good destructive capability, high counts of Iono, Boss's Orders, Countercatcher, even that Team League Headquarters, and that Avery as well, like I mentioned. I think this deck could see some sort of play. I like seeing like some originality in the Pokemon trading card game. Like I mentioned, creativity is always rewarded in the Pokemon trading card game. That's one thing I absolutely love about it. It's a very exciting, very interesting sort of deck. Potentially, definitely came out from the likes of how strong Roy Moon and Charizard have been in Japan. This could really be the next way to play grass decks. We could finally see its future right now in the metagame. And to finish it off, Cloth got 2nd place, and this list is really interesting because it plays Metacham and Rapid Strike Energy. I just think this is a very, very interesting way to play Cloth. Cloth is definitely a very underrated deck right now. It could do a huge amount of damage capability. You have Electrode, which helps you in your Roy Moon and your Charizard matchup. You have your Sneasler to do even more damage. You have the Brute Bonnet, and obviously the Spicy Curry, which this list definitely does play. Again, the Drapion helps you in Mew. The Metachan helps you potentially take multiple turns, which is very, very powerful. You have the Knockout Glove. There are just so many things in this deck. It's like, what the heck? But it came 2nd. It did very, very well at the City League. It got quite a few top 8s as well. So Cloth is definitely here to stay. It's performing better than like Reggie's and even like some Rapid Strike Urshifu decks sometimes. This deck is very, very strong single prize archetype. Definitely don't sleep on it because you can be very wary about it. It is very, very strong. So I know this is a little bit of a shorter episode for looking ahead, but honestly, it's just such an exciting time. I just want to talk about, can Gardevoir really continue with success? It's been that #1 spot for, I believe, 2 weeks now. It could potentially be a 3rd week, and even like it's been in the #2 for multiple times as well. So Gardevoir is doing very, very well, and I believe its success could continue. I do think we need to be wary about Mew. Mew is very, very underrated. It did very, very well in Japan and lots of the Asian sort of region as well. Obviously Europe as well, Mew does pretty really well, but it could definitely slip back into being the best deck in format very, very easily by not gaining any new cards. It just hits like a truck and does huge amount of damage capability. And more specifically, is Lotso the right way to play Roy Moon? Potentially it could be if we look at the results. We look at the results for Lost Zone Royal Moon. It performed the best it could do. It got more wins, but the rest of the board, not so much. Other Royal Moon may have got less wins, but it's much more heavy in the top 4 and even the top 8 sort of placement. So definitely something to consider. There are definitely now specifically 2 ways to play Royal Moon, the Turbo build or potentially the Lost Zone deck. So I hope you enjoyed this episode of Looking Ahead. If you did, please make sure to like and subscribe. I'm going to be back in a couple of days' time with a little recap about where we're seeing the Paradox Drift format so far. It's very, very exciting. We had 2 back regionals this weekend. So I want to talk about how the meta is kind of progressing in our sort of field as well. So I'll probably be out on Wednesday or Thursday. If you enjoyed the video, like and subscribe, comment what is your favorite best way to play Royal Moon or Gardevoir? What should you think is the BDF right now in the format? I'll see you guys in a couple of days for another video. Bye for now.